Today, I'll show you how you can assemble the Specter Shield Lite hardware wallet yourself. And you can do this using standard parts that you can buy at regular electronics stores. There's only one special part, which is this Shield Lite board here, and later it will give us the secure element option with this smart card. This one comes from the factory, but you can actually buy all the other parts yourself. These are 3D printed components, which you can simply print yourself with a 3D printer. And now I'll show you exactly how the whole thing works. First, I've gathered a few parts here that we'll need. So first of all, we have the STM32 smartphone developer board, the disco board here. We definitely need this. Then a QR code scanner. You can't just use any scanner for this. This one here is the M3Y scanner, but another one would work too. This is the one right here. However, this one is a bit cheaper, so that's the one I'll use in this case. And here is this Shield Lite board. Yes, you can either purchase it directly from my online shop, or the complete files for it are entirely open source as well, allowing for full accessibility. You can actually order it yourself from the factory, but you'll have to order a few more units. I'll add a link to all the materials for you later in case you want to buy everything yourself. Otherwise, of course, you'll also need the smart cards, which you'll later insert in the back here. Yes, cables, of course, a plastic case, which you can actually 3D print yourself as well if you want, and the right screws. And for the screws, I use these good spec screws. And here I have three 12mm ones. And here there are three 10mm ones. Unfortunately, the label has already come off here, but they're exactly the same, just in the 10mm version. And don't worry, you don't have to buy all of this yourself piece by piece. You can get the whole thing as a kit in my own online shop, ClavaStack. And I'll also put the link for you down in the video description. There you can choose the color and whether you want to buy it fully assembled and ready to use, just like I showed at the beginning, or as we're doing today, as a kit. You get all the parts I'm showing here sent to you. As for tools, you'll need to provide those yourself. So you just need a regular Phillips screwdriver. Initially, to flash this smartphone developer board, you'll need a mini USB cable. And since most people don't have one anymore, it's also included in the kit, so you can easily flash it. After that, we'll need this cable here, but not anymore, because we'll then use the micro USB cable for the Specter Shield Lite. As mentioned, you'll find the parts listed below in the video description. Just order them there. Unless, of course, you already have them, then you can get started right away. Or you have a Specter DIY, which is the very simple version without this board back here, and you just want to upgrade it. You also want the secure chip option with the smart cards. I've got an option for you as well, the Specter Shield Lite upgrade kit. I also have that in my shop, and I'll link it for you below. With it, you'll get everything you need to upgrade the Specter DIY to the Specter Shield Lite. Maybe I'll make a full video about that in the future, but I think with this video, you'll be able to manage just fine. To upgrade the Specter DIY, you'll need to open it up and remove the parts. Okay, let's get started with assembling the Specter Shield Lite, and the very first thing we do is take this smartphone developer board and unpack it. We don't need the packaging anymore, and now we'll flash it. So I'm also unpacking the mini USB cable here. We'll connect it here to the mini USB port and then to our computer. This is the only time we need to connect it to our computer. Later, we'll only upgrade it via SD card. I'm also going to move these things I have here a bit to the side. So, and now a window has opened up right away for me. I'm using Windows here with this disco board. And it's like a USB stick that just opened up. And we just need to load the firmware onto it. I'll go ahead and download it. I've already prepared the page here. That's the back.solutions site. It's possible that this might change again in the future, but there we can go to hardware at the top and then to Specter, firmware, and then we'll be redirected to GitHub. And I'll put the direct link to the GitHub down in the video description for you, so you can just click on it. And then if you scroll down, you'll find under flashing on empty board, the version that we simply put on we need to flash onto the board to download the software. In this case, we're using the latest version 1.9. But it could be that if you watch this video later, there might already be a newer version available. In that case, of course, download the latest one. This is the firmware file with the .bin extension. We'll download it here. I've already prepared a folder where I'll put it. And from there, we can simply drag and drop it into this directory. A quick note here. We can also verify the software to make sure it's exactly the same software that comes from Specter. And how to do that, I've recorded a full tutorial on it. You can find it up here on the right. As I said, it's super simple. Just take this initial firmware file and drag it over here into this USB stick directory, which looks something like this. Just drag it in, and then you'll see this light here starts blinking. And it's loading over here. What we can already do in the meantime, importantly, without disconnecting the cable, is remove these screws here, the plastic screws. We won't need them later. And I did it the wrong way around. He flashed it and now it shows red protection here. That means you can't just load any other firmware onto it anymore. It's basically a secure boot that locks the software. And from now on, you can only load updates that are official, meaning those officially signed by Specter. And now it's finished flashing, so we can restart it just as it says here, power button. In this case, the power button means unplugging it and plugging it back in. Or rather, we don't even need to connect it to our PC anymore. We can now connect it directly to a power bank. And as I said, from now on, we never have to connect it to any PC again. I'll put the screws away for now. We won't need them anymore. And now we can choose a pin here. In this case, I'm just not going to choose one. You can set one if you want, or you can change it later. So in my case, I'll just hit next twice. You can simply enter one if you like. All right, now let's carefully unplug it once again, and then we can move on to the complete reassembly process. To do that, we'll turn it over once. And the very first thing we do is change the jumper. Up here, it's currently in the middle position. And now we'll move it to the very bottom position. This simply ensures that the board is no longer powered via the mini USB port, but instead through the micro USB port down here. So that later on we can just use this cable here. Initially, we have to do it once with the mini USB cable. Then we'll place it here upside down and now we can get started right away with these two parts here. We need to place them onto the board now, just in the way that fits. This one fits exactly here, as you can see, right onto this connector. This one, the one in the middle, fits perfectly onto the middle connector. That's how we place it on. And then we have this internal bracket here. We place that on as well. And you can immediately see how it fits right in. That's how we put it on. So now it's very nicely and securely in place. And the very next crucial thing we absolutely need to do is meticulously take care of our main board, or to be more precise, our dedicated QR code scanner. And just a very quick and important note here, there are actually two distinctly different types of QR code scanners that can be effectively used for this particular purpose. There are these ones here. These are the GM65 scanners, and the M3Y scanners are also slightly different in size. At the moment, I always ship the M3Y scanners in my online shop. But you can also use these ones here. I'll show you in a moment where the difference is during assembly. I'll put these away again. The difference is not just the size, but also the cable is slightly different. And this plate here is also slightly different. This one fits both scanners, while this one here only fits the GM65 scanner. That's why this is basically the one you can always use. But this one is still in circulation, just so you know. At this point, the video splits, namely between the two scanners. First, I'll show you how everything works with the M3Y scanner. And then with the GM65, but first with the M3Y scanner. And let's move the scanner and the board away from the styrofoam for now. So first, we'll attach this FFC cable to the scanner, and for that we have on the scanner. Here, there's a small tiny black knob and we need to lift it up. I hope you can see it on the camera, so from bottom to top. Then you can insert the cable with the blue side facing up. That's important for the M3Y scanner. And then we can insert it here as well. But in this case, with the silver side facing up, so that it's properly inserted. Here as well, there's also a black nub here, which is originally pushed all the way in. You need to pull it out later. Then you insert the FFC cable. And once it's in, you close it again. And then you'll see it holds perfectly. Now we need the QR code scanner holder, and we'll place the QR code scanner inside it. And now comes something that's actually a bit tricky. We thread this cable through this hole, and then we have to rotate the scanner so that the cable is positioned opposite. And only then do we insert the scanner here. This is what it looks like from the back. And now before we attach this, we need to bend the cable once. And that's important so that the case doesn't get deformed later. This blue part here, we have to bend it down, and you need to be a bit careful. Yes, this is ultimately the most complicated part of the whole assembly. You have to bend this here. I'll show you how to do it. Like this. It's kind of like this here. Make sure it's straight and not pointing downward anymore, and then we can put it on. If something goes wrong, just try again. But it could also be that you run into problems at some point. Then you might want to swap out the cable and try again if you have issues with it. Alright, now we'll just put it together. And the QR code scanner, we need to just plug it in straight so that it's properly seated. Gently wiggle it around a little bit so that it sits nicely and securely inside the designated spot. With the cable here, we need to do a bit of cable management. We'll tuck it in here like this. Exactly, and that's what it looks like. And now I'll show you the whole thing again, but only with the GM65 scanner. We're now going to install the GM65 scanner. It's also still in the older Specter DIY models. For example, if you decide to upgrade now, that's the one that's installed. And here again, on one side, we have this little tab that we need to lift up, where we'll then insert the cable. This time, this is the big difference with the silver side facing up. Then close it again to secure it. And when we now connect this to the Shield Lite board, we do it up here. Move this thing here downwards. And insert it again with the silver side facing up. First, we'll place it into the scanner mount. And again, both will fit here, so both this one and that one. In this case, I'll basically use the old model. Just gently put it in, and now instead of carefully turning it like you would with the other, more traditional scanner, you can simply and easily lay it down in here within this designated area and then precisely place the board directly on top of it. So that it's all the way in. The scanner, we need to wiggle it a bit again to get it into a good position. And now what we need to do is manage this ribbon cable here a bit. And we press it together here once. And this ribbon, we now roll it up here like this. That way everything is neatly organized and we can continue. No matter which scanner you have, the process is now exactly the same. The only difference is that there is this plate with one slightly larger and one slightly smaller hole. With the smaller hole, you're on the safe side. Otherwise, with the GM65 scanner, the larger hole also works. And at this point, let's try it out right away. I'll move the cable out of the way here, and we'll test the QR code scanner to see if everything works as it should, so that if we assemble it later, we don't realize afterwards that something isn't working. Now let's connect it to the power bank. Now we can enter the pin, but I don't have one. And now let's test the QR code scanner. For that, we go to Import Recovery, Phrase, Scan, QR code, and then we see the QR code scanner is scanning. I've prepared a seed QR code here that we can scan, and as you can see, it works pretty well. It's then directly in the device, and we can also check again to make sure everything matches. We see that these are exactly the same words. If everything matches, we can set the paper aside again and continue with the assembly. Now we'll remove the film from our board. We won't need it later, or rather, we won't be able to remove the film once we've put it in, so that's why I'm taking it off now. And now we'll put it in here, making sure it fits. For example, here we have the SD card slot, which also needs to line up with the SD card slot on our case. And here you also need to make sure it fits in properly. But with a bit of wiggling, you can get it in so that it sits nicely. And this is important here as well. A common mistake is not closing this green board properly. So it really needs to be pressed down all the way. And before we put the cases on, we need to attach two more parts. This is the first one. This is for this part here to close it off. In theory, you could install something else in there. Just insert it here, and up here we need this part, which we also put on top. There we go. And then we can proceed to attach these two parts together as well. And you also need to be a bit careful when attaching them, because these studs here are very fragile and can break easily. So be cautious with that. I'll give you a few tips on how to do it best. What I've personally found is that it's often easiest if you first just carefully insert one particular part right here. And at the very same time, you should use your other hand to gently and slightly bend this specific case here so that it smoothly snaps in just like this. Only up to this point here, and then we can easily push the remaining rest in. We also do something quite similar with the lower part of the structure as well. We do this here before we get to this green thing. Here again, insert it halfway, bend this part to the side again, so that it's almost all the way in. Then we push it in, and at the end, we need to apply a bit of pressure so it sits properly inside. Like that. And then we can already start with the screws. I've already prepared them here. As I mentioned, these are the 12mm screws here, and these are the 10mm screws. We'll start with the 10mm screws now, and I would recommend that we start right here. Specifically this one, because here you might think it doesn't quite fit since it's sitting a bit crooked. That's completely normal. You just put in the first screw here, and then everything aligns itself inside. It all happens automatically. So the first screw goes where it looks a bit crooked. And for the first screw, which isn't that important yet, I would recommend applying a bit of pressure from the other side. So doing this on a table isn't a bad idea either. All right, first screw, then the second screw. It takes a bit of force since there's no thread in there, but all of us should be able to manage it. Next, we'll do these screws here, the slightly longer ones up here as well. As I said, doing this on the table actually works quite well. And now these screws here, and there's something to keep in mind. It's important, for example, if you're doing it in the air, to always apply counter pressure on the other side. Otherwise, the case could end up getting deformed. With these two screws, you can just do it on the floor, meaning the top ones, because there's counter pressure there. And with the others, that doesn't work because they're not resting directly on the floor here. And what I would recommend to you here is we just take it like this. Hold it in the air and use the index finger of your other hand to press against it so that nothing can get deformed. We put the screw in here and simply screw it in. And with the other hole as well, press against it with your index finger on the other screw. There we go, and our Specter is finished. We'll test it out again now with our power bank. And everything really looks good, just as it should. We can test the scanner again. Scan QR code. It works perfectly, so that's it for the video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know how the assembly went for you, whether everything worked smoothly. And if you post the whole thing on Twitter, don't forget to tag Specter. I'm now president there, so I can repost it. And of course, if you bought the DIY kit from my online shop, tag me as well, and I'll be sure to repost that too. Otherwise, if you're now wondering, how can I best use the device? What's the best way to use it now? I've put together a list of all possible tutorials on my ClavaStack website, and I'll link it for you below in the video description as well. I've also recorded a very detailed video on setting up a passphrase with the Sparrow wallet. I'll link that for you here, and below you'll also find a playlist with many more great videos about Specter. Have fun!